What's up, everybody? We're here. It's the Practical AI Show with me, Chris, and Olga. And today we're going to take you behind the hype, past the hype, behind the headlines. We're going to look at what's actually real, what's actually happening, where these trends are pointing, how this affects you, all that stuff. So it's a rubber hits the road kind of moment here today. But Olga has lined up some unbelievable topics. The discussion is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to today's show. So many cool points to make. So many interesting things happening. Can't wait to get started. So I'm going to turn it over to Olga. Let's do this thing.
All right. Well, welcome to a fireside chat where we do this every week at 11 o'clock Central. And I crawl the website, the internet all week, trying to find relevant things that are interesting and helpful. So to the web developers, creators, builders, anybody who's interested in actually how to do real things with AI in today's world. And so yeah, today we've got a lot of trends, news, spicy takes, and of course we're going to talk about funding. And especially there's one thing that I could not believe it. I had to double check and triple check because I was like, there's no way this one region of the world has this interesting situation when it comes to AI funding. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be at the end. So we're going to get started with this post that I saw that had 147,000 views in just 10 days. And it is about how Claude Code ranked me first on Google, and it's over for SEO agencies. That's what the title was. And I was like, ooh, that sounds very interesting. So let's talk about that. So basically it was a video where, who was the guy there?
It's from Greg Eisenberg, who's a pretty big presence on social media, tech influencer kind of person.
Yeah, so he had a video where he was interviewing James, aka the boring marketer, who claimed that he built a full local service site for a mobile diesel repair company using Claude Code. And the outcome was that he got ranked top 3 in Google for high intent keywords, mobile diesel mechanic in Charlotte, I guess. Had thousands of dollars in revenue in 24 hours, and phone was ringing off the hook. Sounds amazing.
Well, he also claimed they did it in 4 hours, or at least Greg is claiming that for freaking clickbait on the video.
Well, no, he said it was thousands of dollars in revenue in 24 hours.
Well, yeah, but he says how I beat SEO agencies in 4 hours.
That's very true.
He did the whole site in under 4 hours, which is total cap. But anyway,
is this the end of SEO? Is this the end of SEO agencies, or the start of new AI native playbook for local domination? There's a lot of interesting things. There's local domination for companies that are maybe not on the internet, and how to take advantage of that. And then, but I thought there's a lot of things we can talk about. So where do you want to start?
Well, last week we explored the topic of GEO, which is generative engine optimization, and how that sort of SEO is evolving into this. And the basic takeaway is that your audience now is not really people, it's these engines, and they're looking for certain things, specific details that are maybe a little bit different. But an extension of that is building websites in this new era and using AI agents or AIs or LLMs or whatever to help build and deliver these websites. And what do you need to do to build a website that works? Well, you're going to have to hit on all the classic points that development agencies and SEOs would have typically done in the past. Now, this would have cost thousands of dollars. You would have had to tender these relationships. There's a lot of time, a lot of energy investment that goes into this. But the reality is development agencies hit very specific points. They're usually trying to deliver a website that works for a client, that does all the business needs. And then you've got the SEO people who are trying to optimize it so that that site actually works and brings in revenue on the internet. So it's two functions, but each of those, like the developers and the SEOs, they do very specific things. These specific things can be told to AI, or an AI could say, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And that's what James really did. So he goes through, he wants to build a website for mobile diesel repair. And I think there was some discussion too about he like identified that this was a service that was underserved. And so he uses Claude Code to create a mobile diesel repair site. And the initial basis is he wants to figure out what search terms he could rank for to draw in business. So it's stuff like mobile diesel mechanic in Charlotte. Okay. So his first step is an SEO kind of thing. He says, give me 25 to 50 keywords for this business. And so Claude goes through, does a little bit of browsing, and determines that there's 4 things that people really want in this niche. They have emergency problems, like, oh my God, I need help right now. I'm stuck on the side of the highway. Service, like, my diesel truck needs some repairs. There's a problem, something that they're trying to troubleshoot. The truck driver or something like this, presumably, is trying to troubleshoot. And then local stuff. So people looking for local services in that arena. And he sorted, Claude ranked those and said, all right, we're going to try to do this, this, and this. And so then this builds off a theme we explored last week. Claude built 1 page per intent. So that's like if somebody's looking for emergency repair, Claude built a page for emergency repair with those specific keywords and that whole thing. That page was only dedicated to that. So high specificity. So it says high intent plus hyper local pages. So it's very specific. I have an emergency. I'm in Charlotte. That's very high specificity. And those pages are going to win. So if an AI is scouring the web, looking for this stuff, and this page is only about emergency diesel repair services in Charlotte, that's going to go up near the top. Like, this seems pretty darn relevant. There's no other fluff on the page. There's nothing to confuse the AI engines or whatever that are looking at this. That's important. This is why I mentioned last week, you want to have pages that are super, super specific and nothing in the sidebar and none of this other stuff, because you don't want to introduce any confusion into a machine that's parsing this page. It's got to be totally clear. And then he goes through and provides another SEO layer. He says, yo, Claude, ultra think this site and find and fix all the SEO issues. Well, Claude comes back and says, well, you don't have a sitemap. You don't have schema data. You could compress your images to make your pages faster, and some other recommendations. This is all stuff SEOs actually do. Okay, but it's kind of basic stuff. It's just a playbook. And so you apply the playbook. Claude knew what to do, and it went through and did this. Let's take a detour real quick. What was Claude actually delivering here? Got to think about this. This is presumably a static HTML website. If Claude were to have to go and supply schema, a sitemap, and other stuff to a WordPress website, for example, it would have to work with the tools in WordPress. It wouldn't be able to do it. It would have to tell the human, hey, you're going to need to go do all this stuff, and that'd be a lot of work. But because this is a static HTML website that Claude is spitting out, it's spitting out like 50 pages saying, here you go, upload these to your server. It's all going to work. Because it does that, it can say, oh, we need to make this change, these particular changes to all 50 pages. And it can do that. And this is actually going to be a theme of this week's show, like, might need to rethink the way we do all this stuff. If it's spitting out a static website, number one, static websites are super freaking fast. Number two, the problem with static websites in the past was that you couldn't make changes to everything in an efficient way. Well, AI kind of turns that on its head. Now you can. Do we need these old tools anymore? I don't know. After reading and watching some of this stuff, I'm like, we might be able to do things differently. It's certainly like for a business like this. Is this guy trying to run a website, or is he trying to print money and do the diesel repair help? Well, the business is to help the diesel. That has nothing to do with the dang website. The website's purely for attention and marketing. Does he really need a WordPress backend to go manage all this stuff over time? It's questionable. And if an AI can save that working environment and he just augment it later on, it looks pretty good to me.
So one of the angles is you could, if you wanted to print money right now, technically find whatever that business is locally and do something like that where you have some kind of partnership or something to make the phone ring, do that quick little website for those companies that are not maybe internet savvy or whatever. That's a way. Look, so that's one angle that you could look at it and say, how can I use this today? The other angle is what else? Like, can you create a little agency that does that? Can you go like what do you think you can actually do with this kind of stuff before we start taking apart the clickbait stuff of the actual claim?
Well, so one way to look at this is like, oh crap, we're all cooked. But another way to look at this is that James is not a dummy. He's been around websites. He knows what to do. He claims he's non-technical. That's crap. He knows what the playbook is. Okay, he knows that you got to do some SEO layers. He knows about all this stuff. He was willing to upload files to a server. I got people that I've had customers that are afraid to upload stuff via FTP. Like James is clearly doing that. Like he's technical. Okay. So what is the play here? Well, the play is an agency could have all this stuff set up, and the agency can say, look, we're going to deliver your website, but we don't just focus on that. We focus on the optimization aspects of this that are really going to make it work. In the past, you would have had to, retain an SEO agency and work with them as well. And that's a complicated relationship thing that a lot of people don't want to deal with. It's hard enough just go hire somebody and feel good about it. So it's combining a lot of these things that probably shouldn't have been separate anyway. Like I've done service stuff for people various times through the years. I do all those services together, and I don't charge some ultra premium fee because I wasn't trying to be an agency. But the reality is I was doing what SEOs do. I was doing what developers do. And I had a consciousness of, it's a holistic thing. It's not really just this part separate from that part. Like you got to do it all to have something that works. So I think smart agencies need to be looking at this, and they need to change their playbook. A lot of agencies are like, well, we use these tools. Well, maybe you should just be building a static website for a certain class of businesses. Maybe this is the answer.
So that's the agency side. Then there's the entrepreneurial side, right? So like somebody just wants to, like a kid out there, he's like, I want to print some money. I'm going to learn how to do this and just go do that for, it could be HVAC companies. It could be anything that needs to be kind of actually, usable by people. So like there's so many different angles to that. But of course, when I was excitingly telling Chris about the story I found and was so pumped about practical AI, Chris and his manner, of course, had to be a devil's advocate and be like, 4 hours? Really? And that's when this conversation really started. So why don't you talk about what that really means? And obviously so talk about what made your little ears perk up.
Without this guy mentioning the whole FTP layer and the static website and constant, uploading of things and looking at the content, whatever, it takes time. This is not free. Then he goes on to say that, he did a human design with an AI execution layer using Figma plus Anima plus Claude to create a website built in React. Okay. And he says he used AI to build from a real designer's mockup in Figma and then convert that into a site so that it doesn't look AI. You have to have so much experience to even be playing with this. And then this whole combination of all these different tools together just makes me laugh. Like it's a cumbersome thing to be moving between all these different environments and to get like usable output or something that's reasonable. So he might have pulled this off in a short amount of time, but only because he'd done it quite a bit before and knew what the playbook was. Like to read this and think, I'm an idiot and I'm just going to hop in here and make this great thing in just a few minutes. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. James knows how this works, which is built through years of experience. And who this really applies to, James is an agency. That guy can build this stuff. So agencies now, to me, have a lot more flexibility than they've had in the past. They have flexibility with the tools they're using. They have flexibility in the way they can get output to clients. Clients want something that works. I don't think they really care if it's WordPress or Squarespace or something else. I don't think they really care. I think they want something that's going to work and start achieving their business goals as quickly as possible. How we get there doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time. Like, don't show me the code, just show me what it does. We're moving in that direction every day. This is evidence of that.
So the idea is great behind it. And what I heard you say is that when agencies are watching this is an easy way to win with your clients, to go and try to start implementing what James has done with his site and kind of, bring your clients even more money, right? But where this falls short is that this is not a 4-hour anyone can do kind of thing, unless you've done this, you've got a lot of experience kind of doing that.
Yeah. So real quick, to end the segment, we're gonna say the takeaway here is the playbook. It's not the no-code fantasy. It's not the 4-hour claim. It's not the hyperbolic headline. It's the playbook. The playbook is, here's the stuff we do with a website, and an AI can now help with these initiatives. But you got to know what those initiatives are. But we did cover what they pretty much are. You build targeted pages, you make sure it's got the technical SEO data that's necessary. The combination of targeted pages plus that technical SEO data is really GEO.
Mm-hmm.
And then, presumably some sort of call to action, like, call this number, get started, we'll do your diesel services or whatever it is.
I mean, I know this may be like a dumb question, but like with prompting, right, to do something like that for with Claude, how many prompts would you have to do to figure out what those keywords are, or like how to do all of this? Like just from the very novice, somebody who's never done that before, like are we talking about a couple prompts? Like how would people know what to ask, or just ask Claude, what prompts should I do to accomplish that, and then just see what happens? I'm just very curious.
I think if you do it in the order that he did, so he says, give me 25 to 50 keywords for this business, then group them by intent. So like what's the hottest burning topics that people have, and then to build pages like that. I think you're talking like 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Not too many. It's like you generate the basis of data, of information that you're going to be working off of, and then you kind of refine, whittle that down to the most important stuff, and then turn that into pages.
Got it. Hey, we've got some comments over there. Do you want to kind of look into it for a second?
Yeah, it's just affirmation of the client they just want to work. They don't really care about the bones. There is some move towards static sites. It's a little bit of a thing, but I'm telling you, because of these AI outputs, it's going to become more of a thing. We're going to explore that later in the show. And also that what James is doing is not beginner level stuff at all. He understands the whole playbook. That's the only way this actually happens. And I do want to add, though, and just to reiterate, it's most interesting thing to me about this is that there was no CMS required. There was no discussion of that. We take for granted what a huge additional layer a CMS is. You got to know how it works. You got to know how stuff needs to integrate with that. Mm-hmm. Like this approach bypassed all of that. And like I said, because we couldn't take actions, if we had a static website with 100 pages, well, if you want to make a change, you've now got to edit 100 files. Well, AI can now do that in essentially the same ways as CMS does. One change affects it all. That wasn't possible before. It is possible now. The game has changed. So something to think about.
Gotcha. And then Ken said something here. He said, LLMs are doing the digital donkey work now. Agencies that can think, stitch it all together, and get things done are the ones to watch. Still selling rankings?
It's so true. This will come up later in the show as well. But so AI is not, it is getting rid of jobs, but it's getting rid of jobs that really aren't thinking jobs. It's just procedural jobs. But then that means people are being elevated to the level of project manager, where you get the report from these procedural LLMs, and then you're applying a sanity check. Is this achieving the job we want it to? Is this working?
Gotcha. Love it. And I actually love how you added the takeaway. I think we should do this after every segment when we discuss something, because I only care about what can you actually do after this, not just
how do I use this information?
Watch for this, entertainment, but at the end of the day, I care about that's practical and helpful. So let's move on to our next topic. Obviously, the GPT-5 is made the appearance. We talked about briefly last week, and I was very curious to hear how it went. And so one of the videos that I came across was Sam Altman shows me GPT-5. It was with the lady, I forgot her name. I should probably have it, but she had 2.4 million views on that video. And basically it was Sam Altman, love him or hate him, like he was going through and kind of showing her all the things, and some of the things was obviously bragging, and some of the things were really interesting. But what's interesting about it was that there was instant prototyping. GPT-5's real-time coding prowess is a direct enabler, I guess, for PageMotor's AI-assisted build vision. But what else did you kind of get out of that kind of video? Like, what did you think?
The most interesting things to me from the Altman thing, which got 2.8 million views in just a couple days, which is crazy. Everyone's tuned into this. But, for me, it's sort of just like marketing mumbo jumbo, trying to promote the platform. But what stands out is he admits that we are not at AGI, not even close. he thinks that real breakthroughs won't happen until 2026, 27, and then goes on to qualify that and says, we're bad at long-term, long horizon predictions and 1,000-hour tasks, meaning like this could happen, but the reality is it's probably not. We are at a point where we can train AIs to output specific things. When we receive that output, our job and what our job is going to be for the foreseeable future is to fit that into a context that's actually useful. That is the piece of the puzzle that is not going to happen until we have true AGI. But fitting into context, that's the job of humans. We take the output, which is procedural, and then we place that into a larger context, which actually has meaning. That meaning is the hard part of this problem. And so I am kind of thinking about all of my workflows in that way. What is the context into which the AI output needs to fit? And it goes back to our first segment where it was a static website. Well, that eliminates the need for a context. A static website doesn't really have context. It's just files on the server and it just works. That's really nice. Wherever we can achieve those conditions for AI, where we don't need a context, we can get immediate results. The second you introduce a contextual layer, that's where you need human interaction. And that's where you got, complications. But we can't just remove context either. If you start examining this, you realize how critical context really is. Well, but to me, that's the interesting problem in the whole thing.
I found that we're going to talk about another video that actually came from one of our guys in the forums, the recommendation, and I found that video more juicy with all the actual details. But I did want to watch the Sam Altman's thing, and he has this weird ability of saying things without saying things, which is kind of very strange. It wasn't a lot of necessarily meat. But one of the things he said was that a kid born today will never be smarter than AI. And I'm like, okay, so I mean, is that true? Why would we always struggle with some kind of things that AI just cannot creatively solve? Is he saying that eventually AI will be so smart that it can creatively solve all the problems and there wouldn't be need for any jobs at all or no creativity? What does that mean to you?
Well, I don't want to derail this whole thing, but what is smart?
Well, exactly.
Is it knowing a bunch of stuff? I know a bunch of stuff. It doesn't make me smart. I'm just a good Jeopardy contestant. What's the point?
So
AI knows a bunch of stuff. Who cares?
It will be more about creative problem solving. That would be
that's smart. To me, creative problem solving, association, being able to unthink the way things have been to see better horizons, better solutions out there that people don't see. That's smart to me. That's a higher level cognitive function that involves so many things. It involves some general knowledge, but plus this augmentation of creative thought. So I don't know. AIs to me should already be infinitely smart in terms of knowing all the information that's ever been spit out onto the internet. But is that actually useful? I don't know. That doesn't, if that built things, we would already have built these things.
Well, and then they also had the backlash that AI, the 5 version is not as warm or human or whatever friendly as the 4. And then they had some issues with rolling it out in some way. And so overall, I'm very curious. There's a lot of technical advances that we'll talk about, but I think he did a good job kind of tooting its own horn, but I'm not sure if it all went as smoothly as it could have.
My favorite thing about that was when he mentioned that it's feasible for one person to build $1 billion company with AI. I totally agree with this. I'm thinking about this all the time. I think, I love the idea. I love the idea of one person gaining as much leverage as possible. What does that look like? What does that mean? It's just an interesting problem to think about. And AI certainly makes that possible. I don't see why, let's say some 16-year-old kid with a vision all the time in the world and infinite tokens could put together something that's going to blow us all away. And I'm sure that's going to happen.
I love your positive thinking on this, but that's true. That's a possibility. So, let's go. So this next video is also about, and I'll drop all the links in the description, but it's GPT-5. It says GPT-5 is a freak. And that was a recommendation from one of our guys. And so I kind of went over that. And what it basically talked about is, GPT-5's strength is an interactive, visual, and code-first prompting. It can build complex interactive web apps 3D games, physics simulations, CRMs, video editors, even Photoshop clones in a single prompt. It delivers higher reliability and cleaner code versus other options with reduced hallucinations. I actually went and tried to do it, but I think I have like a paid version of ChatGPT 5, but I don't think I have a coding version. So I'm very curious for like non-techies like me, I have to actually go and get the coder version of ChatGPT to actually create all of this? What do you think? Or I don't know if anybody can drop in the chat about that. But I'm very curious because it looked so, I could not stop watching it. It looked fascinating.
So the video is GPT-5 is a freak. And we'll drop that in the description after we publish the video and everything. It's not in there right now. At least I don't think it is. But crazy, crazy, compelling video. This guy does a bunch of prompts, and what he creates, he's having GPT-5 spit out interesting applications in an HTML file that he could load up onto his server and run. Okay, so an example of this, he did one prompt, like 5 lines of text to create a Photoshop clone, and like most of the functionality in their work, like basic functionality, it was pretty compelling stuff. And so that immediately makes me think tools are on notice, and specifically tools like Photoshop, which has been like everyone uses this for a really long time. But one of the interesting facets of Photoshop use is that people really only do certain things. Most people who use it for a specific subset of features. And as long as whatever they use has those features, they're good to go. So do they really need Photoshop, or do they really need this specific subset of features? Mm-hmm. This type of AI output makes it so that you could build an app, a tool, with exactly the features you need. And then if you need different ones in the future, you just roll that out too. So you don't need to pay whatever, like subscription software is about to get cratered. I mean,
yeah.
Good luck. Good luck. It's going to get blown apart by this. And so like tools are now totally commoditized. Like you can just build whatever whenever you need it and then like deploy it to your server and use it right away. But then he goes on and does some other prompts and like for, image formatting, image enhancement, that kind of thing. These are useful. But again, it goes back to the contextual question. Like tools are oftentimes only useful within the context of a particular workflow. And how we fit that type of output into the existing workflows that we need, that is the real magic, and that is the job of patching this whole thing together that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. It's super encourage that AI can do this kind of, like it is, you got to watch the video. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm going to probably drop in the forums later. And I think it was Sean, I think it was you who recommended the video. And I'm gonna like, okay, how do I do? Because I really want to do it. And maybe I need to get better at prompting.
Sean says, yeah, you just need the plus version, and you got to have Canvas turned on.
Interesting. All right. Now, the second thing that was, again, this video to me had a lot more juice in terms of like what actually is happening than the actual video with Sam Altman, which is interesting.
Yeah, you should have just done this.
Yeah, I know, right? But again, like those are two different perspectives. One is like more marketing and one is like practical stuff. So agentic capabilities plus auto fixes plus file handling. GPT-5 can autonomously debug, rerun, convert assets, images to PDFs, and detect, repair broken code without user direction, offering a glimpse into truly self-directed app agents. What are your thoughts on that?
I did find that kind of compelling. So the guy does a prompt and creates this little app to like do a mirrored ball floating inside a mall to like show reflection and like, which is complex stuff used in gaming. And when he first ran it, there was a mistake. And then GPT-5 says, oh, there's a mistake. Let's refactor this. And it just did all this. But I guess it couldn't detect the mistake until it tried to run it. And when it tried to run it, it didn't run right. And it was like, oh, crap, there must be a problem. So that is really interesting little feedback loop layer. And I hope that shows up with other types of code. Like, let's say you have something, a model trained on PageMotor plugins, and it's able to like run this in a little contained environment, and it could detect potential problems like that. Like that's pretty promising. Again, this is a one-off standalone scenario that the guy shows in the video. I'm not sure how useful that kind of demonstration is other than to show the potential power. But when we start fitting it into context, it suggests that it should be able to look at the context and say, well, this isn't run, or it should be able to look at the outcome and say, this isn't running in this particular context. What do we need to do? And it might even be able to make those fixes. So that's pretty huge for developers who need to put complex things together in an environment that has other pieces.
So it's still weak on consistency and visual generation. No new image generation model here, still using GPT-4's engine. So there's not much kind of happening there. Benchmarks, number one in coding and health accuracy. Tops independent leaderboards, what all these leaderboards and benchmarks like SWE Bench, software engine, I guess, and Health Bench. Also the lowest hallucination rate among leading models. I think Ken, you posted a post that I couldn't read before the live went on, but I'm just very curious to hear, like, what do you guys think between Claude and ChatGPT 5? Like, have you tried it? What do you think? What's been better? What's been worse kind of this week? But what do you think about this number one in coding and health accuracy? Like, is that just like whatever, or does it matter?
And also Carlos in the chat says he's using Zencoder to vibe code and that it's a pretty interesting tool. I've not looked at that, but that's something the audience might want to check out.
Thanks, Carlos. I'll definitely check it out for next time.
I don't know about the benchmarks thing. I think to me, these are claims.
Yeah.
I don't really care about claims.
It's
like I care about the GPT as a freak video much more than claims.
Who is doing what?
Show me something.
Then smart routing architecture, GPT-5 isn't one model, it's a model switcher. Router deciding internally which model to use per prompt. This makes it more flexible but opaque to users. I find it kind of interesting and fascinating for somebody who's not technical like me.
I think they shouldn't have said any of that.
Oh, really?
It just works.
It just works. It's a magic thing. Who cares? And then high power at a reasonable price. Pro tier, $3.40 per million tokens. The matches Gemini 2.5 Pro and beats Grok. Does not talk about Claude. So probably does not beat Claude yet. I don't know. But
so let's piggyback on this demonstration of GPT-5 as a freak. It suggests too. So let's think about WordPress. I think people are probably familiar with that. So WordPress, you got plugins to do stuff. It's quite often the case, as it is with something like Photoshop, that I might need a plugin for a particular purpose, but I only use a small subset of that plugin's features. This sucks when that is a premium plugin with an annual subscription. It sucks. I know I'm paying this much, but I am only going to use this tiny subset of features, which is probably the most basic thing they offer, but I still got to pay for it. This output from GPT-5 is suggesting that we'll be able to roll out stuff specifically for our needs, little mini apps. Now, maybe not for WordPress because there's a lot of complication with the way those plugins work, but for something like PageMotor, who's our show sponsor, PageMotor is built to do exactly this. It provides the context into which the AI output can go and actually do something meaningful for you within the larger context of your business or your initiatives, whatever those are. It's really compelling stuff to think about, like, okay, well, you're only going to need to pay for stuff that's really complex and connecting a whole lot of dots. That's where the value is now. That's where it should have always been anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But for stuff that's like basic, so we talked about highways last time. Here's a highway, paying for stuff online and using a payment processor such as PayPal or Stripe. That is a highway that's already paved on internet, just needs to be connected for a site. This has typically carried a premium cost, no matter what system you use. It's actually kind of trivial. If all you need is a button for somebody to check out and a price tag associated with it, that path can be paved for nothing with an AI generated plugin. So it is really, really interesting from a cost reduction and also just complexity reduction standpoint that this stuff is now coming into view. The key variable, though, is whether or not you can take that output and fit it into your context and get it to work. If it's a standalone HTML site where it's just like our first segment guy, like James's site, it's going to work. There's a lot of compelling things in favor of this standalone HTML website right now. I don't like that, since I'm building PageMotor, but I do understand that PageMotor provides a context for much more sophisticated things. So I'm not like worried about that, but the potential usefulness of a static website going up. A lot of reasons why.
So what's the most actionable takeaway from this segment that you think will be the most helpful for the audience?
Number one, I think tinkerers and people who are inclined to mess with this stuff should go mess with GPT-5 and see what they can do. Then, as the next step in that process, they should look at what they have or what they have built and think, how does this look? What does it look like when this becomes useful for a large number of people? How can this actually serve people in a way that matters? And the answers are could be varied. Maybe it's this needs to fit into a context like a PageMotor to really be useful. Maybe this works for standalone websites, and therefore this is something that agencies might be interested in. Maybe this is just a tutorial like, hey, if you want to do this is the cheapest, best way to do it. It's a bespoke solution that can be built for you. Here's the prompts I used. And we'll come back to this in a little bit because we're going to talk about GitHub. And I think this opens up a whole new way that all this stuff's going to be organized for us, and we're going to use it. That it's a big shift from the way things have been.
All right. And then that, do you have any comments about this? So hold on, let's see.
I think I ran out of steam.
It's all about prompts. Okay. I used ZenCoder, Vibe Code. Okay. We talked about Carlos's. $20 per month for GPT-5 is a great bargain for most general users. GPT-5 is good at coding PHP. Sean, I think that was you who told me about this video, so thanks for that. Sean Davis says, yeah, it's the reality. I've paid thousands for software over time just for a handful of features. Well, yeah, I mean, that's interesting about software. That's another whole other topic that we can talk about.
Well, okay, let's make a larger point here. So what is the role of, plugin developers in environments like WordPress? What's the role of agencies? They got to put all this stuff together and make it work for specific businesses. The biggest problem in websites is that every business has some idiosyncrasies about exactly what they need for what they do. There's these little differences, and there's all this cost and all this energy tied up in conveying these little differences. It's madness. It's madness. And it really sucks for the end user because they absorb the cost. They have to engage agencies. They have to worry, am I hiring the right people? Are these results actually doing anything for me? It stinks. And the costs of that have eliminated a huge chunk of the market. Like, they can't do it. This is suggesting a way to get those idiosyncratic results using AIs and not needing to involve all these extra layers of complication. It's suggesting there is a way out of this trap. It feels like a trap to me, has felt like a trap to me. And this shows that is going, the walls are crumbling and that people are going to get from A to B. They might have to accept some certain constraints for now, like, oh, this has to be a static website. But you can actually get there for a low budget thing and actually get probably better results than you would have if you'd had to undertake the full process with a full price tag.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Okay. And then I'm waiting for the day they start charging what they probably really should. It's a loss leader now, but like crack, get them hooked, then jack the prices like Claude did.
We'll see. This is like GPU, the race to get GPUs to mine Bitcoins. Like, that demand is going to bring down the cost. They gotta
like me today deciding to have a feeder for squirrels. Like, you gotta have the feeder.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, good Lord. I would like to know, like, I want to see like a visual thing from AI showing me how much energy is really being consumed and required by this. Because I'm a big skeptic about that. You hear a lot of like, oh, it requires so much energy. Like, does it really?
Yeah.
Efficient processing doesn't really require that much energy. So, like, what's really going on here? I'd like to see I want to see like a interactive bar graph or something like that, showing me like if you can look at your computer, like your CPU usage. I want to see that for the AI landscape.
And then Ken says, I'm getting excellent value from the $200 a month Claude tier as I'm regularly using over $1,000 worth of API calls. That said, GPT's API costs are significantly lower.
He's making so many API calls, he's even making some right now.
I love it. There's unfortunately no unlimited tier on offer. All right, well, that's good. Thanks, guys, for your feedback. I mean, the comments. This is what makes it. This is why I love the show. Is like it's a live and fun interaction, and you get to see what my interaction with Chris is like on our date nights and car rides.
Let's take away from that segment. Our CMS is cooked. I think in a lot of ways they are. I certainly think you can resort to this later, come back to this later. I will make an official statement. Any CMS that does not explicitly provide a pathway for AI output to get into its system is done.
Well, you talked about that in the forums this week, right? Where you want to rebrand and like PageMotor is not a CMS really. You kind of talked about kind of more about that, but then coining a new phrase for something like that. Didn't you mention something in the forum about CMS platform?
Yeah. Well, I don't like just the phrase CMS because it's limiting and it makes people think about it in a certain way. What PageMotor is an operating system for internet environments.
Gotcha.
You need two things. You need an admin side to manage some stuff. You need a front end side to display some stuff.
Yep, got it.
Is that, it goes beyond a CMS because you might have an agent AI in the dashboard. You go in there, you say, hey, PageMotor Architect AI, build me this kind of thing. And boom, it does it because it's already operating within the context. Like I said, the AI spits out the output. Output has to fit into a context. If PageMotor, which provides the context, has the agent AI in there, that it knows the context.
Which we're gonna get back to that when we talk about next segment. So the spicy story of the week is that GitHub is without the CEO. The CEO stepped down. Thomas Domke is stepping down as GitHub CEO at the end of 2025 to become a founder again.
Become a founder again. Are we paying attention?
Microsoft will not appoint a new CEO. GitHub will report to multiple execs. GitHub now hosts over 1 billion repos and forks, 150 plus developers, and AI projects have doubled year over year. And it comes as GitHub faces growing competition from AI native development platforms like Google's AI offering and Cursor. So what is it, a signal? Surrender?
Well, today I learned Microsoft owns GitHub. I can't believe this hasn't looked like a scarlet letter. As a developer, you don't want to touch that.
But they've owned it for a while, just like LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, right? So like they've owned it for a while, but now they made this move. And so what could this mean for GitHub?
Well, here's what it means: that Thomas Domke, the outbound CEO, is doing an AI related project, something. But I think here's what it really means. Okay.
But they're not replacing him. So like,
no. Here's why they're not replacing him. And here's why he's leaving.
Okay. Tell me.
So GitHub has been where it's a repository where people store their open source coding project, primarily open source coding projects. Mm-hmm. And they can work on that. It's like a social component to it. Other people can see it. Other people can interact with it, download it, contribute, depending on your settings, whatever, and that kind of thing. That whole landscape is shifting over to AI. Most of that code is low value, low usefulness, or highly idiosyncratic usefulness. But no matter how much you run that experiment, it can't touch, like AI can produce infinitely idiosyncratic output. So like I've got this particular use case. I want this. I no longer need to go to GitHub for this thing that was kind of built for this and might work, but needs to be tweaked. Now I just go to the AI and have it build me exactly this thing for this use case scenario. So like what is actually on GitHub is on notice. Only the biggest projects that are hosted there that are like really refined and really do a lot of stuff are going to survive, and they don't really need GitHub. They can live anywhere. But the future is these tools built by AI for idiosyncratic purposes. And what really needs to be saved is probably just the prompts. Like if you want to build a Photoshop-like tool, here's the, 1,000 lines of prompts that might be relevant to you to build something really significant. That's what you need. You need a prompt repository now and say it works with these particular LLMs or whatever. That's what you need. These coding repositories are dead. They're low value compared to something like that.
Yep. Gotcha.
Davidas Velasquez, he says he hasn't heard bigger BS. LOL. He's out of here. All right. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, buddy. The future is coming whether you like it or not.
So
That's the facts about GitHub. Like, it's over.
Loss of product vision. So there, some of the things they were talking about, what this could mean for GitHub. Loss of product vision. Without a CEO, GitHub risks becoming a backend for Microsoft, not a community-led platform. What do you think about that? Is it a possibility?
I mean, I just think, it's served its usefulness, and I think that usefulness is waning badly.
Gotcha.
And I think that the history of the last 20 years, anyone who's like watched Google acquire anything, like, they all die. All these things die. They were formerly popular. They were even like, real big flare up of popularity in the beginning, and then they kind of just taper off forever until they're dinosaurs. And GitHub is now a dinosaur because this ability to produce highly idiosyncratic, purpose-specific output, which is really, like I said, this the challenge of internet anyway. Everybody's got these slightly specific differences in what they need. They want something built for that. How do we do it? This is how we do it.
So another thing that kind of like, what does that mean for GitHub came up was the erosion of community trust. Developers may feel GitHub is losing its independent identity, inviting defection to smaller AI-first ecosystems. It talked about integration matters more than innovation now. So the push may be toward Azure Copilot integration instead of serving the bleeding edge of open source or startup innovation. And competitive pressures, Cursor, Replit, and PageMotor are rapidly building tools GitHub isn't, speed, flexibility, and AI native UX. And so GitHub could end up like Slack or Dropbox, widely used but no longer influential. So what is it, just another Microsoft service? Like, what do you think about all this now?
So widely used but no longer influential. I want you to think about this. This is happening everywhere. WordPress, 100% in this camp. Widely used but no longer influential. So I'm using something I'm calling the enthusiasm index to gauge all these software that existed in the previous generation as we move into this new AI-powered generation. Widely used but no longer influential is going to be the theme you see everywhere. So we rely on things as infrastructure, or have relied on things as infrastructure, and we still will to a degree because it's expensive to roll them over into a new environment in most cases. But these things have no way to come back. There is no comeback tour for this band. It's over. The record sales are gone. It's all dying. It's going to be gone. And this is just a theme. You're going to see this everywhere. I think you should probably think about things in these terms before engaging any, like, if I'm going to pay for this subscription, for example, or whatever. I have a real distaste for this now. Like, I don't want to touch anything that's like this. It's like, ugh. So that's pretty rough. It's pretty rough, but it's the reality. Like,
Sean Davis, he says GitHub is now part of the core AI team at Microsoft. So yeah, it's going to get swallowed up and slowly become less relevant. Very interesting move. I mean, I wonder what they're thinking.
The CEO already, he knows it's over. He's out. He's going to go do AI stuff so he can remain relevant. He wants to be a founder because it's exciting right now. It is exciting.
But Microsoft is like, I guess they just kind of see what the writing is on the wall, and they're like, we're just going to bring it in and be part of it. I don't know. Any helpful like tip from this, or like is just more of the ranting?
It's just, this is a sign of the times.
Yeah. Interesting. Sign of times. Next segment is I came across this post, and it basically talked about one of the guys that we know, Nick Gray. He posted a question about why do people use for personal websites these days that hosts on your own domain name, you can post many articles or pages, is fast and easy. I know and love WordPress, but feel steep learning curve for total newbies. I like Card, but it's only single pages. What else? Posting individual articles and multiple pages is an important piece of my question. So that made me think, like, what else is out there? Somebody talked about Ghost, and that's why I wanted to kind of bring that up, because clearly what he voiced, right? The complexity for somebody who's not an expert is growing. So where should he go? What kind of things are out there? And, why creators are growing, kind of WordPress and Card and all of that stuff.
Well, so I love how this piggybacks on everything we've already talked about, but people want solutions that really work for their needs. And increasingly, we have the ability to supply that with these AI solutions. So, for example, he says WordPress is a steep learning curve for total newbies. WordPress is such a complicated behemoth now. It used to be, I want to run a blog. Like that was a real simple one-to-one correlation. That's gone now. And so now WordPress looks different because the considerations are different. It's complicated. I would never recommend that to a person who just wants to do what Nick is describing. He wants to host on his own domain name, nickgray.com or whatever. He wants to post some articles and pages, and he wants it to be fast and easy. Well, that's not WordPress. That's not WordPress. Card is a one-page site creator that, I know a lot of marketing type people, email list guys, they love to use this, but that's limited. You got one page. And there's various other versions of that that are used by the seedy underbelly of the internet for other purposes, but they're one-page things where you can just put some links and that's it. That's limited usefulness, and it's certainly not a high-value thing like with pages and stuff. So then you get into, well, what's the right answer? When you start looking at this landscape, everything looks pretty bad. The only thing that even looks remotely appealing to me in this space is PageMotor, from the basis of simplicity and cost and ability to like it's going to work everywhere. You could fire up, the cheapest server you can get, and then boom, it's just going to work. But I mean, so we've got Ghost, which Olga mentioned. Ghost is a CMS platform, but a blogging first CMS platform that was we'll call that a spin-off of WordPress. It's not related to WordPress, but it's a spin-off. The main developer was a core WordPress developer. He spun that off into Ghost, and that is, I believe, it is a JavaScript-driven platform, which was the development trend at the time. And so it was a way to get away from the broken WordPress architecture and do this thing in JavaScript. My opinion is they didn't really get away from that. Like you can still commit coding sins in a different language. Just because you chose something else that was more of a trend at the time doesn't mean it's really good. And it actually, Go still has a lot of limitations and stuff that WordPress has. There's some learning curve as well. So that's like a blogging platform. I wouldn't choose that for Nick's purpose. Another one is like Wix. Absolutely not. Yeah. Slow, not great. Squarespace, same thing. These carry a higher cost. Like your costs with that are going to be higher than they would be with just like, the cheapest thing, Bluehost offers and spinning up a PageMotor instance. And then there's Hostinger Builder. Apparently it's easy to use. I don't know anything about it. I didn't even know that was like a thing that is standalone. So I don't know. Maybe people know about that. Maybe they don't. But the bottom line is none of these look super great to me. None of them look super great to me. But what he's describing is you want to have some content, like a log, a compendium, like a database of content that you keep with you. So that's not going to work with this AI static site output kind of thing. So you do need a CMS or CMS-like thing to do this. What's the answer? I think soon enough it's going to be clear that PageMotor is the answer in all these scenarios for people. But Nick's right. Like, what happened to this simple, I want to build some pages thing?
Yeah, where should creators like Nick build their sites in 2025?
I know. Well, I'm offended he's not using PageMotor already, but maybe we can solve that problem. I also haven't told him. So maybe that's on me.
Clearly. Okay, so on the other kind of things that, platforms that fall short, kind of we talked about Card, WordPress, Medium. It was great for writing about limited site structure and domain control. Grav, lightweight, but requires tech setup. Talk about HubSpot CMS, overkill unless you need integrated CRM. So I
like spending $1,000 a month.
HubSpot is putting a lot in their hands and fingers into a lot of different things these days. So the question is the era of general-purpose CMS over?
I think if we want to express it in that way, a general purpose CMS, is that era over? I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to say a corollary to that is the era of a CMS that's ready to receive stuff from AI. That is just beginning. So is this website, is this software we use to run our website, is this set up to be augmented by AI in all the ways that we're going to want to do this? content, content remixing stuff that's suggested for your socials. Those are content functions. And then we've got, I want to add this idiosyncratic functionality to my site. I want it to be bespoke for my use case with my design details, all of that stuff. Another way to express this would be, can we solve the main problem of internet, which is I need this. This is idiosyncratic. How do I get from where I'm at to this?
Mm-hmm.
That is the expensive problem of intranet that this new generation, in my opinion, hopes to solve and will solve.
Right.
At least in a much better way than it is right now.
And users demand simpler tools for specific outcomes, right? Newsletters, portfolios, lead generation. And so like this all for all size fits all platform.
It's amazing that people who have big audiences now, who would have in the past had their own WordPress websites, they would have been running big WordPress blogs. Those people now exist on Substack and Medium, and they send traffic there from their socials.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they're increasingly choosing to operate. Well, I know lots of these people. The number one thing they all tell me is it's just easier and everybody's already there. It's just easier and everybody's already there. And I get that. But that's evidence of a larger trend that like things just aren't easy enough. And then the other side of that, which is really important, which we don't really go into here too much, is the fact that you kind of got to go where the audience is. Mm-hmm. That's why social media became what it was and ruined blogs. Like you could argue that the action happening on blogs was richer and more community focused than what happened on social media, but the audience moved. So that previously richer environment died. Was it better? I don't know, maybe, but you know, we have to move where the audience moves. There's no way around it. So.
Right. So, and maybe you already answered the question, but kind of sum it up. What's the minimum viable website today? What does that even mean?
Well, it depends on what you need.
Is it pages?
If you're a business, if you're a local business and you don't really update content or publish new content, or even you can do this on a limited basis. You could publish new content with a static HTML website generated by AI. I mean, honestly, my biggest takeaway from this week, like that's kind of blown me away. And I'm like, wow, I see how this would really be useful in a lot of cases and probably what people should be doing. If you want to publish, which is what Nick expressed a desire to do, you need the simplest tool for the job, ideally, that gets out of your way the most. In my view, that is PageMotor. There's some other tools that kind of purport to do similar things. I don't think they're as simple. I know they're not as cheap. And I also know that there's higher technical requirements for those. So it depends on what you want to do. Now, PageMotor is still in beta, so you got to be technical to mess with it right now. But we're heading towards the actual open launch whenever that happens. That version, you don't need to be technical at all. You just need to know, oh, I want to add content. Here's where I do that. And then you add your content, boom, shows up. So that, to me, that's minimum viable if you want to publish. Publishing being the key, because that's a thing you continue to do. You don't want to be going back to the AI and saying republish, remake my entire website every time, then re-uploading it. That's kind of ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But it just depends on what you want to do. And if you're a business, you obviously need things to be connected. So what's the minimum viable thing for a business?
So
it goes
back to what do you need the website to do, and have the platform that makes it easy for you to get that thing going. And now that you have AI that can pretty much make a lot of dreams come true, it's going to be a lot easier without messing with plugins and this and that.
Yeah. One thing that stood out to me during this whole thing this week is that we have been in an era where it's been real ham-fisted. You want a website? We're going to start with WordPress and we'll figure it out from there. Yeah. So like we've assumed all this debt and all this other stuff with this inclusion of WordPress, and then we had to work from there. Now I'm thinking this new era is going to give us a lot of clarity. Well, here's what I want to do. I've got some options with where I start. I don't want to include stuff that is going to make this a bulkier, heavier, worse experience that I have to deal with. So I just think we haven't really had that option.
Yeah.
And so nobody thinks about it this way, but like this shift is coming. Like we really need to be thinking, what is the right tool for the job?
Yeah.
Before it was just WordPress and then go. But that's clearly not served us. So now we have some options, which I think is actually pretty exciting. I would love it to be only PageMotor, but I actually kind of like better that it's an open landscape.
That's the vision. One of the comments is, it's almost like we've done 360 degrees now, from the hosted solution to your own solution and then back to a hosted solution. What do you?
Yeah,
what do you
this is
thoughts
the
on
fourth wave. It was Blogger, which was hosted. Then it was WordPress, which was your own. And then we've gone to, we're in this era back going to hosted solutions, being it, Squarespace getting halfway there, or now Substack and Medium being all the way there. The bottom, so hosted solutions, I think about them like I think about centralization, such as everybody being on X. Like you don't publish your blog now, you just put all your content on X. That's an example of centralization. It was decentralized, now it's centralized. For convenience, unless people are really, really serious, they're always going to drift in that direction of centralization. It's tough. I struggle with this because I know what that means, like, business-wise, and like ultimately outcomes get constrained. But this seems to be the reality of human behavior. Centralization creates an opportunity for easier onboarding.
Yep.
And easier immediate access to gratification and dopamine. And like, how are you going to compete with that?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that we're looking right into is the hosting partners and all that stuff, because for a lot of people, that is what they want. They just want easy.
I mean, I think everyone wants easy, but like I said, that even like with the hosting, that's still a decentralized solution. I'm going a step beyond that and suggesting that like,
yeah,
looks like these centralized platforms. Yeah, exactly. Casey, centralization is great to get canceled. Yeah, that's why I'm such a advocate for decentralization. I'm Mr. Get Canceled.
You got canceled twice.
I got canceled before it was cool. I didn't get
and then you got canceled on X for something. I don't know.
Oh, and then I got canceled on X. That was great. Thanks, Elon.
Anyway, you must be doing something right. So one of the smaller news, but it was interesting that one of the trends, because I always look for trends of the week, and one of the trends, Flat Logic, just dropped the 2025 trend that should have every development agency rethinking their workflows. Manual coding is now under 21%, and AI generators are taking the lead at 38%. So what does that mean for future of building web apps, Chris? Manual coding is down from 65 to 20%. I know I'm going to get made fun of.
How scientific is this? What's a sample size? The question to ask?
They're a pretty big player in the AI space. Flat Logic, they're not a small little nobody.
I think what it really means is that what we've already covered a bunch, and that is it's all about, yes, we're going to be using AI to generate output and results, especially procedural stuff. That just makes sense. The question is, how do we fit it into environments? To me, that is the job of developers. It's to do a sanity check on the AI output, and they have to have enough experience and understanding to assess like, hey, this makes sense, this is going to work, or it doesn't. And then they have to fit that into a context, that a reasonable working context for whatever application is in play. So, what I really would like to see is the amount of coding overall dropping? That should be yes. Right. The amount of context fitting should be increasing, and the awareness of that kind of thinking. Like, we're going to see an expansion in the way we think about putting the whole puzzle together, which is a higher level task, which is the way things should be anyway. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see a reduction in this more like, bulldog style activity of like just producing some code for this, this purpose, this context, whatever. The AI should be doing that, and I think it's good because with that kind of code, if somebody's not good, they're going to make mistakes. And like, we can't afford mistakes on procedural code. That has to be right. The AIs offer the potential to nail all that stuff and to like make it a non-issue, which is huge.
Right, and they're saying that this is a big chance to upskill from manual builders to orchestrators of AI workflows. And we kind of talked about that the last show, is that you guys are becoming, in addition to being developers, also orchestrators of like things of how to make it work. But it just kind of made me pay attention. Like 38% of apps now coming from generators. Like, what? I think
38% are probably using pieces that have been done by generators. Yeah. And Sean makes a point. He says that maybe it means more people entered the coding space using AI, not necessarily that coders are shifting away from manual coding. I think that's a big part of it. Like the fitting into context aspect of the equation, that implies coding, mm-hmm. piecing together the stuff. It's just a difference in the nature of the task. Less procedural, more associative, or however you want to characterize that.
Gotcha. Evan says some screen share examples of all these AI site builders and their output would be great to see.
I agree. We're gonna figure out this sharing aspect of things. I've been thinking.
Yeah,
about that.
I agree. Thanks for feedback. I welcome all feedback, good, bad, and the ugly. That's how we get better. Then this other one, I was so excited to tell Chris about this, and then of course Chris kind of poo-pooed it on. But 90% of clients, according to a bunch of chatter and trends this week, expect motion, and they're claiming that static is dead. I do like kind of things on the website when they're
Motion,
moving.
animations, scroll effects, micro transitions, and dynamic layouts. Okay, I think you guys, if you're, I think you can imagine what we're talking about. You've been to these sites where you scroll down the homepage, boxes move into place, a little parallax effect on the background, all this kind of thing.
And they were talking about that the clients, it's kind of like the trend, right? With clients, it's like the clients ask for the motion in their websites, and it's like a new trend over there. And people are saying static websites are starting to look broken. And so tell everybody.
Is motion UI now the minimum viable expectation?
Right. So they expect dynamic experiences, especially in landing pages and SaaS marketing sites. Again, I was like, oh, this is fun. And then Chris, what did you tell me?
All right, let's just step back and look at this equation. Customers use websites. Does a bunch of crap moving around on the page change anything for them? Does it make it better? Does it improve the sales? Does it do anything? The reality is no, of course not. Of course not. It does create a bunch of crap for the developer and designer to deliver, and a bunch of time they're going to spend focusing on something that doesn't freaking matter at all, besides adding page weight to the most critical pages on the site. You're not going to add it to some interior page that nobody sees. You're going to put it on the homepage. Well, that's going to make the homepage slower. And that's going to make that part of the task more complicated. And so you've delivered something to the client now that does one job. It serves the ego of the person writing the check. And I get it. Ego is important. But it's not serving the customers. It's making life worse for the designer, I guess. I mean, they can charge more for it. Maybe they like this. I think that's crazy. But, I don't deal in that way. But that's how agencies work. So whatever, that's fine. But it's just not serving anybody. That's my problem. It doesn't actually serve anybody. It is a cool doodad. I will step back and say that AIs can make this much more trivially easy. Although we'll see larger patterns and people will be like, oh, I spot the pattern like you'd see with AI speech, where it's like, oh, there's an M dash. It's a freaking AI. Well, that'll be there. But, if we could deliver that stuff to massage the client's ego, if that can be a cheap delivery and not eat up a bunch of time on a project. But I swear to God, if I ran an agency, I'd say okay, your base price is $28,000 right now. They're like, oh, I want motion. Oh, it's $58,000. You're a dummy. But the clients want it. So that is 100% what's going to happen. If I know anything about agencies, it's that I can give them all the best advice in the world. They're going to say, screw it, client wanted this.
So it's kind of like fashion, right? So sometimes you look at fashion and you're like, where would I wear that? Or oh, well, maybe. And so this a new trend in fashion that goes away. So you think it's one of those, or do you think it's going to evolve into something else that's going to be more manageable?
Oh, it's not going to evolve. Anything that developers can sell and that clients can ask for, that's just going to freaking happen. Okay. Or agencies can sell. But here's another point about this. I think is so funny every time. Think about the website on mobile. Think about it on mobile. There is 375 to 420 pixels of width to do all this fancy crap in. Stuff barely moves. Parallax backgrounds barely shift. I mean, stuff barely happens. Stuff that takes all this time to do on a desktop environment. And the clincher is that mobile usage is always rising. So we're doing all this work that's unnecessary to begin with for an increasingly smaller percentage of the audience. It's just stupid from every angle except for the client wants it.
Yeah.
That's what I struggle with.
I hear you, especially the mobile thing. I mean, so many people you are on the mobile. You have to think about the experience on the mobile too. So anyway, do you want to read some comments while I'm
I love what Casey and Sean are saying right now. They're saying, well, that I mentioned the use of M dashes in AI-driven text. That's a big tell. And Casey says he's been using them since way before AI was a thing. Me too. I actually like them because I'm a typography nerd. And Sean says, well, now you have to avoid it just to prove it's really you. Well, let's pray that this will happen with the parallax effects and all the motion on sites. You'll have to have a site that doesn't have that to prove it wasn't built by AI or something like this. Like let's hope for that trend. My goodness.
I love it. So any takeaway from this segment that's practical?
It's practical? No, this is just pie in the sky nonsense. We're going to do all this stupid stuff for no reason. So nothing practical here at all.
All right. Now, we're moving to agentic AI segment of today's part. And GPT-5 and agentic platforms like Cursor are reshaping how software gets built. The dev isn't just coding anymore. We talked about that earlier today. They're orchestrating shared components, enforcing brand consistency, and guiding AI workflows. So what does that mean for developers themselves? Because agentic AI, and we're going to talk about the players in the space, kind of allows for autonomous code generation, plugin scaffolding, and task management. But we talked about last time that you still want to set up a lot of that stuff to make sure it's working properly. So is agentic AI, are they saying that the trend will continue, that you'll just oversee it like the master, or like what do you think about it?
The question is, what is this really? What is this agentic AI? To me, here's what it means. I think it means different things to different people in different contexts, but here's what it means to me. I work in this company. We routinely deliver these kinds of solutions. I am now automating all of my procedural stuff that we formerly had to do with a developer. I'm having AI do this now, but it's a certain subset of things. So now we train this agent on these specific things, and we have the agent that's trained for what we do. And then that thing spits out the output, and then we fit that into the context, like we said before. Mm-hmm. So what is the agentic AI? It is an AI that's been trained specifically for your workflows. And so, yes, developers will be using that. It's like giving a name to the process that everybody's undergoing right now.
Yeah, but is it really like a trend? Is it like legit trend, or is it just rebranded kind of buzzword again?
It's just,
right?
Okay, it's both. It's both.
I mean, because it's like, okay, this is like a trend that's moving towards it, but like I feel like everybody's so excited about agentic AI, and I'm thinking, but you still have to think, you still have to know what you're creating.
Well, I like this because you're responding to like the fact that this is a hot item right now. If you say agentic AI, you've got people's attention, but like, what are they really paying attention to here?
Right. Well, that's what I was like. I looked it up. I was like, what is agentic AI really? Right. And so agentic AI refers to autonomous systems that proactively plan and execute multi-step tasks, no constant human input needed. So, and I'm like, okay, so
I push back on the no constant human input needed. I think that guidance is always necessary. You got to like turn on the system and have it run. Not every agent is going to work in a way that it needs to run all the time. Like I described for developer workflows, you would say, hey, I need this thing, but this agent knows what we do and knows how to spit out what we need for what we do. It's a trained model for this context. Contextually trained models is what agentic AIs are to me. Whether they run all the time or just when asked, kind of immaterial, I think.
So they are saying that there's a huge opportunity to build agent-ready plugins, onboarding flows, auth layers, AI managed content refreshers. Like, what does that mean for a human like me?
These are all indications of future trends. We want a lot of people, companies, whatever, want AI to be able to write content. The process of writing content really is a never-ending task of producing, surveying what's out there, refining for GEO purposes, refining for audience stuff to get more sales, to produce new content in the space to capture more of the footprint of what is relevant to that business's undertakings. So I think there's a desire for these types of functions to be out there, and this is merely evidence of that. I think we're really far from like an actual implementation phase where this stuff matters, but this is where people are looking. And that's what this is evidence of.
But isn't that another word for just the automation? I mean,
automation is the old word. This is how it's happening. But it's automation.
So it is kind of repackaging automation as agentic AI. So it does
Well, I think, you know, if you
What
want to
can
be real
agentic
derpy,
AI do that automation couldn't?
well, if you want to be real derpy, when we say automation, we're thinking about like factories. But this is digital automation, which is kind of a new frontier for that. I don't, it doesn't have to have a special name. It's gonna. So you're gonna get a diet of this, whether you want it or not. You know.
So I looked at who are the top AI players who actually helping developers build smarter. So agentic AI. So who do you think, without looking, who would you say is not, maybe you already looked, but who is number one that is kind of taking the?
I don't actually remember the rankings for something like this, but I mean,
Oh,
I don't
no.
even know what qualifies as an agentic AI, because to me it's just a trained model, which you would take Claude and train it for your own purposes.
So OpenAI, it's GPT-5 plus agents as SDK. Don't have no idea what that means, but they're claiming that they're number one, massive dev bus, killer tools like Codex plus GPT-5, and dominant presence in search arena and xchatter. And then there's Microsoft with Copilot Studio and Azure AI agents. Then there's Google, Gemini, and Agent Space. And then there's Anthropic, Cloud Code, Flat Logic. So I'm just.
So this is hardcore into that space. Does anyone in the audience have any experience with any of these specific agent-specific AIs, these models? Because I've not messed with any of that. And I feel like number two, Microsoft Copilot Studio plus Azure AI agents. I feel like almost nobody outside of specific corporate contexts has messed with any of this. I could be wrong.
Well, when I hear coders doing coding, like most of the time, I hear about Claude. So that was interesting for me to. But maybe they're looking at overall coding with everybody. Like, oh yeah, I made my ChatGPT thing. Maybe that's considered coding. I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of these agentic things are not code. They're not delivering code stuff right now. I think they're delivering
some kind of automation
process type stuff for, you know, I don't know. I can imagine like a law firm. There's a lot of stuff they have to file, and like this thing would be telling you, okay, here's the next step. Here's what we need. Sending out emails to the team members and saying, okay, we're gonna need this from you, that from you. You know, coordination.
Yeah,
activity.
But like basically, I guess the point here is like, are you seeing productivity gains, or is it still faster just to code it yourself? So,
well, the reality of this, I don't know about how anyone's experience, but I know the reality is it takes a lot of work up front to build something like this that actually does the job better than whatever system you had in place before. Because if you had a successful business, you obviously had some sort of system that was reasonable to handle this. And it usually looks like, if you're in the business right now trying to convert this stuff over, it almost always looks like it's not worth it. It's not worth it until it is. So you almost need a founder or a CEO or somebody who's just maniacal about this and just wants this, because you can't really justify it with numbers up front in most cases. You know, there might be but that's why there's this rush for these agents. They know that, you know, people building these know that, oh, well, these types of businesses can't afford to do this. But if they had this, they would certainly pay for it. So there's a big rush for that, I'm sure, right now. And that makes sense to me.
Do you have any action item or takeaway from this to try or to
No,
do?
but this is something to watch. I want to see what industries get swallowed up by this kind of thing first. Like, who's this really start serving first, and who is being built for? Because that's obviously trying to capture a big swath of money. I can imagine, for example, within healthcare, you've got the insurance coding and all these constant problems. So like there's a communication loop, I guess, that has to happen with certain doctors. There's a lot of insurance back and forth for the coding. That's handled within offices right now. That's a big disaster. Medical software is a big disaster. I imagine they're building agents to smooth out those flows right now. That's probably like the number one gold rush.
Interesting.
But stuff like that. So I want to see where that's going.
I will. I'll make a note so we can get to that in the next episode. Kind of what are the top contenders for this first. All right. In the news, moving down, Claude Sonnet 4's 1 million token window from TechCrunch. They talked about web developers can now feed entire code bases or massive content plans into AI for seamless refactoring, doc generation, or site design all in one go. I don't know if that is it that important?
No, I think it is important. I think so. I'll mention two things that I think are important. Number one, being able to feed entire code bases into it. So we're talking about big fat code bases and actually being able to work with them with AI. I'm going to hit the brakes, say caution. It's of limited usefulness because big fat code bases are hard to parse, and there's usually not defined pathways for everything you'd want to do, which makes it not a good candidate for using AI. But you can maybe get some gains. I'm not sure it's worth it. I think it's a lot of money and input and energy input for little result. But this suggests something like PageMotor, which is a small code base anyway. You feed that sucker in there, these models should really be able to start getting trained on what they need to do to interact with the software in various ways. Add a documentation layer to that, and you've really got a nice starting point for doing something significant. Now, the other side of this is feeding massive content plans into AI for seamless refactoring, doc generation, or site design. So a lot of people are asking me, well, I want to get away from WordPress. How can I do this? And my answer in a traditional context is, well, that's a pain in the ass. We got to go through the database and make a bunch of decisions. That stinks. I would now be trying to do this with AI. Like, depending on the kind of site you have, if you want to get away from WordPress, like first thing I try right now after watching this episode, I would say, all right, I'm going to go use Claude Sonnet. I'm going to dump my WordPress database into one of these things and see if it can spit out a static HTML website with all my stuff. Like, see if this is possible. And then when that's correct or whatever, if I need to add like a little e-com layer, if I have simple e-com needs, like I want people to buy a white paper or something like this, see if I can add that. And like, can I break free from WordPress? Because I got news for you. If that sounds complicated, that's by far the easiest way to break those WordPress chains and to get out of that mess. Like, nothing's going to be easier than that. So I would play with that. I think that's pretty cool. That offers, like I said, it offers the potential for people to move or to experience their website in different contexts. Heck, you could just play with it to see if it's like, okay, I'm going to take the site I have now. I'm going to try to do this with Claude. I'll put it on a different domain, some play domain or something, and we'll see if it's faster. We'll see if I like operating in this environment. See what you think. Is this a cool way to do it?
Another interesting idea, kind of how to migrate people from WordPress when they're sick and tired of it to this.
I mean, an agent to do something like that would be pretty sick.
Love it.
I'm not quite sure how that would work yet, but I think those kinds of things are going to happen.
Maybe somebody's crazy enough to try it. So next news was Claude. Claude was in the news this week. Claude's on-demand memory. It offers continuity. Oh gosh, I can't never say that word. Continuity for long-term projects without compromising privacy, retrieving past chats only when asked. What do you think that matters?
Well, so they're doing a lot of stuff. I see them working in favor of users right now. They're doing a lot of stuff to limit the amount of resources and therefore tokens necessary to keep the ball rolling. And they're giving you some options now. You can invoke some old stuff that's going to consume more to work through your task, but you don't always need that. So we're always moving in this direction of better specificity that can suit our needs. And you see it in this context, you see it in many other contexts right now, and it's really fascinating. Higher specificity is sort of the order of the day.
All right, any takeaways from this?
Not really. Last week we talked about the car race. This car pulls ahead a little bit. Now this one makes some different improvements and pulls ahead a little bit. It's just cool to watch this stuff unfold. I can't believe there's actually meaningful changes week to week.
That's what blows my mind. I was like, oh, there can be that much. And it's like, there's a lot going on. Ken says Claude's context jump is overdue. GPT-5 made it unavoidable. So that's why I love the competition. Like there's especially now that we have so many different players, it's fun to see what they come up with and who's left behind. So moving on, the next thing on our agenda is our guys from the Syntax show.
Whoa, no. We want to do the AI browser.
That's what it is.
Oh, that was from Syntax show.
Yeah,
my bad.
They talked a lot about different things, but really what stood out to me the most was the Comet, which is the AI browser that doesn't browse, it acts.
It's from Perplexity.
It's Perplexity's Comet, doesn't just summarize, it interacts with websites, adds groceries to carts, scrapes top 15 reviews, and it can control browser tabs, autofill carts, find uncompleted YouTube videos, and etc. So it redefines the browser. It doesn't just summarize, it autonomously acts on websites. So what do you have to say about that?
I did not know this was happening. It makes sense to me that it's happening. I can't believe it's already happening right now. I've been thinking about this a lot. So my PageMotor peeps will know from the beta, we have been talking a lot about using the template editor to take certain actions and how it's like clearly not something that we want end users to be doing, like noobs, novice users. We don't want them having to interact with that layer of the software in the future. We know that. It's merely a tool for the way the whole thing works. It's not really intended to be an end user's tool. the question is, how can you get around that? Is it possible to take actions in the template editor? Is it possible to do stuff in there without having to have the user go in there? An AI browser that can actually take actions within the browser could theoretically do this. That's amazing. Like, so one of the things, so AI, again, it can have output, but it has to fit into a context. Actually taking actions on a website is a contextual application of AI. It's amazing. Like, it could give you a grocery list based on what it knows your purchases are and what day of the week it is, but it can't go do it for you. That's the context. This is a way for it to actually go do that. Like, that is super, super cool. There's lots of potential applications for that. Right now, we're just talking about the simple, most obvious use cases, but I think the PageMotor template thing, like, it could rearrange some stuff in templates. It could add a thing to a template and save it. Like, that's crazy. I love that. I would love to train UI interactions for an AI. Like, I'm really looking forward to being able to do that.
Are you saying that with Comet, basically, a human doesn't even go to the website themselves? It does it.
It goes using your mouse.
Crazy.
It's cool.
Wow.
It's cool.
How to add your top 50. What can I do today? How to add your top 50 past groceries to cart, compare blogs, reviews to pick a product and buy it on Amazon, jump to exact timestamps. It could how to curate a playlist based on your interests. So it's basic tasks for now, but it's not passive assistance. It's a hands-on agent inside the browser. And so can you use it today? I looked it up. It's $200 a month if you're on that Perplexity Max plan.
It's great to have infinite money right now.
But I was like, it's already happening. I was like, I wonder what that means. And so, what does it even look? Yeah. What does it even look like?
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with this. It's too interesting. Sean says it's probably a security nightmare. Yep. But I don't know. I don't know how they can limit the context there. I don't know. I assume it can just run, like, it wouldn't actually have to have a browser window open. It could kind of like run its own environment and do it in there. I don't know. Fascinating stuff. We're going to see this evolve, though, because any human actions, and again, even like, so I described the template editor and taking actions in there. That is procedural. It just involves actually moving stuff in a UI or doing something with a UI. Like, that's another layer that we want to attack with AI.
But if I understand this correctly, like, humans, like, you give this the task and it does it for you, so I don't actually have to see what's happening, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you wouldn't actually see the website being visited, but it would all get done.
So Comet doesn't really care about mobility and movement on the page, or like pleasing design.
No, that would yeah, that's a great point. Wouldn't matter at all.
It just goes and like automatically kind of like, I need to do this and this and this.
Actually, the more stuff that's happening, it would probably be worse for the AIs. They'd be much easier. It would operate much better on the simplest thing where you can't really make mistakes.
Right. So that's what it talks about, is that sites must offer structured, machine-readable content and expect rising demand for agent-ready architecture, metadata, APIs, actions. So that was...
Yeah, it's something to think about. Like, wow, this UI needs to be redesigned so an AI can use it more easily and accurately.
Well, what happens when more traffic comes from AI agents than users?
Sean, quit it. This might cause a new wave of super simple websites. Don't let me dream.
Anyway, so what will happen if there's more traffic comes from AI agents than users?
Well, that's going to change the way we do things, because we're going to have to serve the audience. And if the audience is different,
yeah,
because
the audience is not humans anymore. So should we build API specs into every public website?
It's coming. It's coming. Imagine a government website, which you can't even navigate anyway, even if you're a genius. Now we get the AIs to do it. That's what needs to be redesigned first. I'd volunteer for that job, but it stinks.
But how does UX evolve when the visitor doesn't even have eyes or a mouse?
Clarity. One-to-one clarity. This is this. You take this action, this will be the result. It's just real clear cause and effect.
That's so wild to me, crazy. But again, we're bringing like what's happening right now. So we need, it's fun to think about it. So it's not just browsing is behaving, and it's a wake-up call. Your next visitor might not scroll. They just need to act. So is your stuff ready for that? Do you want to keep the developer stuff for the next one?
Yeah. We're an hour and a half in.
All right. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap this up with the treat for you guys. We're gonna talk about AI funding this week. So where's the money going? And like I said, there was a huge kind of a surprise for me. So what I did is I didn't just pull out US funding for AI companies. I did the whole world and then kind of split it up. And I'm not sure. I guess I can post something like that on. This would be fun to kind of see the visual. But last week, and my week basically is like August 7th through 14th through yesterday. That's when I did this. There is $1.4 billion that got funded in AI space. And it's 35% of total global funding. So 1.4 billion is 35% of the total global funding. And the number of AI companies funded total in the world were 34. And that's about 20% of all companies funded from the world. So do what you want with that stage. USA dominates with over half of global AI funding. Not a shocker, I guess, 54%. And it's outpacing any other region. And then the rest of North America, I obviously excluded USA, so just Canada and Mexico, USA was almost 800.
Well, we'll say 750 billion or 750 million, sorry. But
Yeah.
How was Canada and Mexico 560 million?
I don't know. I was thinking
happening?
the same thing. I was like $600 million for Canada and Mexico. That's crazy.
I mean, Vancouver's got a lot going on there, and I assume it's the locus of most of that.
We'll talk about the trend of what's happening. So China did 14 million, which I thought it was kind of sus. I don't know.
Well, so here's what I think is going on there. Their government pays for a lot of those initiatives. So that wouldn't be considered investment in this proper sense. But I think the government is dumping endless cash into these endeavors, which wouldn't show up here.
Well, yeah, because what China reported they funded in AI space is just 1% of all global AI funding compared to United States at 54%.
Have you seen their drone shows? I don't believe these numbers.
That's what I'm thinking. I was like, well, this is Crunchbase. Like, I mean, this is where all the funding is reported. So I'm like, okay. Now we look at overall Asia without China. I specifically took China out. So the whole Asia is about 6%. But here's what blew my mind. Okay. Europe, the whole Europe reported in the last week, it raised $1.1 million. It's like 0.08% of global funding.
Is this thing on?
I know. I was like, no, I double, triple checked. I was like, there's no way that Europe raised that little money. And you know, like that's again, like numbers are there. So I don't know if Europe just doesn't invest in AI or
too much of a legacy of anti-competitive policies. It's not good. They need to unravel that stuff and get that wheel turning again. It's brutal.
Well, I thought that was very interesting. And I'm very curious, whoever is in Europe, like what trends are you seeing there? Like maybe there's a special database for that, but
I'm not seeing anything.
Very interesting. So USA remains an AI investment epicenter, which I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, are we just overhyping it? And like the rest of the world,
we do. Of course we're overhyping it. It's great.
Or are we just setting the pace where like we're just way ahead? I don't know. I think we're setting the pace. That's what I believe in that. North America overall commands 93% of all AI funding. So that's Canada, USA, and Mexico. Europe, not even 1%. China is 1%, which is very interesting. Most funding targets enterprise AI this week. Again, this is this week. Particularly infrastructure, SaaS, machine learning, and IT tooling. Companies like, there's a big raisers, Cohere, they raised $500 million. and mass compute 300 million. And that's foundational investments. You want to talk about what that means?
Nope.
All right.
I'm not an expert.
All right.
I do know that a lot of this investment going to SaaS is pretty interesting to me. I think SaaS is on a downturn, has been on a downturn, but it is. I think that's due to what I call the subscription event horizon. People have too many damn subscriptions, subscription fatigue, you might want to call it. And also this rise of more specific solutions being offered by AI really suggests that a lot of SaaS stuff, you could roll your own now with GPT in 5 minutes. Goodbye subscription. So stuff being, if SaaS is to remain a thing, it's going to have to shift somehow beyond what we've known it as. I'll be curious to see what that is. Probably AIs as a service.
So vertical AI is, the vertical AI, the deals went to logistics, manufacturing, and agriculture. So that's kind of the verticals where the funding went this week. And 73% of funding concentrated in top 5 deals. This week, definitely large scale kind of dominated the deal. And so last week it was more breadth, I guess, and today was more depth. Okay, this week was more depth. So I thought that was fascinating. I just love kind of seeing these things, foundational infrastructure, heavy funding of compute and model infrastructure, coherent mass compute, signals where hosting and AI model serving are heading.
I'm looking forward to the hosting thing is going to change. The way we've known hosting, it's kind of been a consistent thing for the last 20 years. The biggest changes have been things like DigitalOcean, rolling out your little virtual droplets, things like that. But that's really not that crazy. But the shift we're about to see with AI and having an agent layer that's who you interface with to have work done on your website, that's going to be big. Because that connects normies. That's what people don't realize. You might think, oh, it doesn't sound that great to me. It doesn't matter. Normies are doing a hell of a job just buying a domain, connecting their name servers to their host. Like that to them is already too technical. If the host offers solutions to them beyond that, they're gonna be like, oh, please God, throw me that life raft, pull me ashore.
Right. And this week, trends show that investors see value in tools that support AI workflows rather than just AI outputs. We talked about AI's funding. I should have run for the week before and just see if maybe they're on vacation this week. I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. But we'll see week to week and what happens. And
you're still on holiday. That's probably the problem.
I mean, maybe that's what happened. I
got that out of office till September 26th to reply.
Yeah, and so. And I will also list the companies like Cohere, Mass Compute, Descartes, Matic, and BinCentry. All of them are from USA or Canada, and those are the big guys that raised a ton of money this past week. And as VCs bet on go deep on infrastructure, are we setting the stage for a new wave of AI native publishing tools? Kind of that's the question.
Yes. I'm also interested to see though, like, so my thinking about all this stuff, my outlook is that if $1 billion gets spent, in these types of investments, these venture things, I always assume like 80% of that is going to be totally wasted. It's going to amount to absolutely nothing. And I want to see or I want to identify which of these things, like I think last week's stuff in creators and workflows, I think that probably is going to have a lot of legs. There's going to be a lot coming out of that. Some of these bigger plays, like with these mass compute and Cohere and all this stuff, like the next AWS, I think these are flops. I think this is going to fall into that 80%. This huge money gets spent on absolutely nothing. It will be interesting to follow these trends and see what actually becomes the truth.
And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep talking about it. So there's a question in the chat, but I want you to kind of talk about that's it for me from the official agenda. But I do want to mention kind of what's the latest this week in the PageMotor's development and kind of what are you seeing, and what do you think overall? Kind of where is this heading?
Yeah,
maybe you can read the question that
yeah. Casey's question is pertinent to this. So he says, have you gone to the deep end with AI, and so have we in the beta? How does, or has this impacted your thoughts on PageMotor going forward and ongoing development? Has there been a major shift in thought or no? I think in terms of how I think about what the admin UI is going to look like and what it's going to do, shifts keep occurring for me. So like this week, one, I already thought it was kind of going to be like this. Now I'm like, wow, it's really going to need to be like this. Is one of the, so if you go to I wish we could share, but you go to the admin home, you've got like 6 modules where you can command stuff. You can set content, play with plugins, themes, users, and site settings, that kind of thing. Well, there's going to be one for I think it's going to be called the PageMotor Architect. And that's going to be an AI thing. You can have this architect create content. I think you could even go in like your first install and have the architect say, you tell the architect, I want this e-com site with these capabilities. Click that button. As soon as it refreshes, your site is now this kind of site. I think that is more important than I realized before, and it's really going to be an essential aspect of this moving forward. It's all about context. AI's got output. Output needs to be translated into a context that we can actually use, and that needs to be really accessible. I'm talking about like it's not good enough to go to ChatGPT and then try to fit something into your environment. Like it needs to be in the environment already. So that is a shift for me in terms of like, wow, okay, I'm really doing this. So that's going to happen. I've obviously got to build out all the other pieces to make it all work. Like the basics are not fully in place, but that's where I'm going for sure. Like it has to be that. We talked about like, the in-browser stuff, okay, so if you want to modify the template editor or something in the template editor, you would have had to go in and do this. Well, there's also another layer here I could introduce called hooks. So we could use some hooks to do that stuff. Okay, are there any other options for how we do this? Maybe there are. Maybe we'll explore those. But now this AI layer comes in and says, well, maybe the AI can actually use these technical components too. So it's like options are emerging all the time. I'm trying to remain as open as possible to, number one, can these workflows be optimized, especially for novice users who are not technical? Sean says, is that possible it ends up being a paid feature? When I had originally mapped this whole thing out, yes. I want to like play with it and see how it works and feel it like, okay, this feels premium. This feels like something that should be accessible to everybody. Like, I just want to understand that better. So I don't want to just say like, oh, this is definitely going to be a paid thing, or this is not. Like, I don't know. There's probably some sensible boundaries in there, and I need to play with it to know what they are. But I'm open to any of that stuff because there's a lot of stuff I can do with the code that kind of compromises the integrity of the code base to some extent, and I obviously don't want to do that. And some of these AI potentials offer a way around that. It points to like a cooler future. So I want to check those out. I want to play with those things. Casey says it's been worth it to be a part of and help shape the development. You guys have been awesome. I mean, like the action this week in the forums. Like I didn't give this enough props in the show today, but Sean developed a page collections plugin, and then there's another one that just came out from I think Takesis. Let me see if I can find it. But it's a simple menu plugin.
That's actually an interesting thing. We should talk about like what people actually built this week. And
I know.
I have a lot of like idea. Like I think I want to condense the show in like an hour, but there's like honestly, like, the more I'm uncovering, I'm like, okay, so I'm still learning what will be the most fun and interesting and create the discussion, but at the same time, like bring you guys value. And I think talking about what people creating is obviously the whole point of the show. So
it's more valuable if I can demonstrate it. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on. I love the development that's happening, and so I'm working on PageMotor 0.3 beta. It's already got a ton of stuff. I know based on what you guys have already built, like you're really going to appreciate what is in this new thing and how it makes a lot of these actions you all have been trying to take. It's going to make them easier. And also got some progress on the modular content front. That's going to open things up for us as well. So a lot to look forward to. The UI improvements are really nice. Like I said, it'll be cool, but I'll have more to say on that when we get there. What's a week or two out?
What's on your next week? What are you working on next week?
I'm going to get modular content working in content. I also have been, so there's a bunch of JavaScript that runs in PageMotor, and various tools use this or that or whatever. And I'm not a big time JavaScript pro. I can do I can do whatever I need to do with jQuery and all that stuff. But I have only recently started to really delve into the way the language works and how I can use models and inheritance in the same way that I use them in PHP. And one thing that's pressured me to do this is to add functionality to the tiny MCE editor where you enter content. Modular content gets added there, and then it does some stuff. Well, that's one component that adds something to it. What if another component that doesn't exist yet wants to add something to it as well? Well, I need to build some pathways in for these components to be able to do that, to extend the system. That can get messy in a hurry, and there's some ways to do it that are gross, and there's ways that are elegant. So I've been thinking about these elegant ways to do it, and I've come up with some pretty interesting stuff. And I'm probably going to play with this for a couple weeks because there's some really cool possibilities for building stuff in there and having total control over that environment. And maybe even like rolling out, say, okay, for this type of thing, it has a text box. I want to roll out an editor, but I want to have these customized buttons, a limited set of things, some other features. And I just, there's a whole lot that can be done there. And it stinks that I'm working with Tiny MCE because like kind of have to inherit their crap. But I'm trying to figure out a way to wedge a bunch of elegant stuff into their little system, which is not always great. But I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole before. I had avoided it intentionally because I knew it was going to lead to this, but I'm going to end up playing with this a whole bunch. And now once I see what the best answer is for it, like I can't unsee that. So this is what I get to do.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for coming. Again, let me know how I can make this better. I think we're going to definitely cover what did you build this week. That's a good one. And then
we'll do some segment intros. If we have visuals to go with it, we will intro the segments with some visual
I'm gonna
content.
figure out how to share this in StreamYard. So
I saw some stuff. I see what we can do.
I know we can do it. I just gotta. I will figure it out. Yeah. So and on that note, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And Chris, for those who are watching and have no idea what PageMotor is, just like give a quick elevator pitch, like a pitch, and then obviously beta is closed now, so they can get on the wait list. But like, what does that mean? And kind of when is the next?
So I'll contradict myself from earlier in the show. Say that PageMotor is basically a CMS. It's a replacement for WordPress. It is a tool to run your website. You can add content. You can mess with your design. You can add plugins. You can add functionality. It is AI native. And when we say AI native, what does that mean? That means it is natively set up to receive simple output from AIs that can do amazing things. So it is set up in a way where AIs can be trained easily to work with it and to give you stuff that is useful. PageMotor plugins that are being built right now by the beta community, these are actual pieces of software. Software is when you have a way to input information and then use that information in some fashion for output. That's software. That's what a lot of these plugins are doing. It's actual software. So people are in there building actual software, sometimes with the assistance of AI, in a lot of cases, probably most cases at this point, sometimes without. You don't need it if you don't want to. It's pretty simple syntax to deal with this. But if you have developed with WordPress and had to deal with any of this, coming over to PageMotor is going to be like, oh my God, where has this been all my life? Like, this makes so much sense. I'm speaking a simple language to the software. It gives me this rich output in return. So, it's just it is a content management system, a website tool that's built the right way and built with the intention of you leveraging it to do exactly what you need to do. So one of the themes of this week's show was specificity and, using AI to generate idiosyncratic output that suits your needs. PageMotor is ready to receive that idiosyncratic stuff so you can get to work right away and do what you need to do. So there it is.
Awesome.
PageMotor.com. Go join the email list on there.
Yeah, we send obviously kind of weekly updates on kind of what we covered in the show, so you'll be in the know what's happening. But then more importantly, you will know when the next round is opening up. But I think you said October, maybe?
It'll be October, and I think now I was thinking early October before. I do not think that's going to be the case now. There's some stuff I want to get in line. What I would like to have, so whenever the next round of the beta opens up, we're going to have a lot better landscape for AI prompting. So we'll be able to say, if you're using this model, go ahead and use this. Here's the document you want to give it. You know, it's going to probably take this many tokens or whatever. I want to have all that stuff nailed down so that people have a really rich landscape with from which to operate. And then I also want to have progress on the info product e-commerce plugin to get people doing that, you know, primitive sort of e-commerce layer. I want to have some progress on that so that it's not just like, oh, this is going to happen later. I want to be like, oh, well, get in the beta now and you can play with this stuff. So
got it. Awesome.
I'm thinking late October. We'll see.
Join the list. That's all I can say. Thanks, guys, for all the compliments. I'm having so much fun doing this every week, and I'm learning a ton. And I just love that, you know, it's the first time ever I'm like actually excited about technology because I see what's happening and being a part of it. So I'm enjoying it. So anyway, anything you have to say?
Nope. Just see you later, gang. Thanks
Peace
for being here
out.
this week.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you next week.
See you next week.
Into the stream. Bye-bye.